Major footy record.
Hi everyone, welcome to On The Record, brought to you by Woolworths as we take a sneak peek inside this week's edition of the AFL Record, Australia's #1 selling sports magazine. And joining me today is my AFL media friend and colleague, the man who sits in seat 1A of the Cardinia Park press box, Pete Ryan. Pete, welcome.
Good to be here, Ash.
Now, of course, you are also, as well as all things Geelong, the guru of free agency and trade, along with Nick Bowen. Our cover story this week is all about free agency. It's not far away, so let's go into it. Now, first I want to ask you, Pete, how's it gone after about 5 years free agency? Is it working to the satisfaction of the players in the AFL?
Well, I think it's working to the satisfaction of the players. Certainly they've got more player movement. Competitive balance still an issue. I think it needs to remain. See the compensation flush through the system, and some of those clubs that have been struggling work up the ladder. So hopefully it stays for a couple of more years and then we start to change.
Not 6 years?
Not 6 years. I think 8 years for at least another 4 or 5 years.
All right, let's go and look at a few players. We've gone through in the mag and looked at every free agent, but I want to get your opinion on a few. And the first one is the enigmatic Tiger, Tyrone Vickery.
Yeah, there's a few more enigmatic than Tyrone Vickery. I think he'll go, but Richmond apparently have some sort of offer on the table. Damien Hardwick's expressed some keenness to keep Ty Vickery, but he'll have some suitors. And as Matthew Richardson said a couple of weeks ago, it might be a change for Tyrone Vickery. He's got talent, re-energise his career.
I agree. I think he does need to go elsewhere. A couple out of Freo, Pete. Chris Mayne.
Yeah, well, Chris Mayne, all indications are that he will leave Freo at the end of the season and come back to Victoria. If I had to guess, I'd say North Melbourne lead the run-in for Chris Mayne's services, but there's no certainty about where he might end up. He's a real pressure forward at his best, so he could add something to a club.
And Zach Clark.
Well, Zach Clark's an interesting one. Fremantle are keen to keep him, actually, and he will wait until the end of the season to make a decision. Fremantle's aware there's some interest from Victorian clubs for the ruckman, but his form's been good at the back half of the year, so he's a 50-50.
What about Nathan Browne from Collingwood?
Yeah, Nathan Browne. Collingwood want to keep him. He's a member of the leadership group. He has to adapt to the modern style of defending. Collingwood will make an offer to him. I know he's sitting down, Nathan Browne, with his manager and working through a couple of other offers. I think he's a stay.
Another premiership player could leave Collingwood. It's extraordinary.
Could, but I don't think Nathan Browne will.
What about his twin brother, Mitch, from West Coast?
Yeah, well, Mitch Browne definitely has a decision to make, and I think he will leave West Coast, come back to Victoria. He's a defender who's probably lacked opportunities through injury and through other players stepping up to take his place. He'll come back to Victoria, find a spot. St Kilda were interested in him a couple of years ago. They're after key defenders. He could be one they'd look at.
Now, a couple of veterans also qualify as free agents. Now, we can't imagine these players going elsewhere, but they're actually on the free agency list. The first one, of course, is Hawthorn superstar captain Luke Hodge.
Superstar captain. Whether he plays on is the big question, Ash, and you wrote a couple of weeks ago that maybe it was time for him to go. Well,
I wasn't quite saying that, but he's got a big decision to make. He's just going, Hodgie. You know, his best is great, but he's got a big decision to make at the end of the season. Also, a player you see a lot of is Corey Enright from Geelong.
Well, Corey Enright's a fantastic player and he obviously hasn't lost any of his great form. He's an All-Australian candidate, which is amazing given his age. He's one of those players that will make a decision definitely at the end of Geelong's campaign. They're keen for him to go on. He just has to weigh up whether he's got another pre-season left in him.
What do you think?
I think he should go on, definitely. But Corey Enright will leave quietly if he does go. There'll be no fanfare.
Yeah, the retirement announcement will come in middle October or something like
Correct.
that. Also in this week's record, it is the 250th game for the mercurial Eddie Betts from Adelaide, and our Lee Gaskin has sat down and had a really good chat to Betts about that milestone. OK, Pete, turning to Match Centre now, and it is a big week for Josh Kennedy in the Friday night game at Domain Stadium, West Coast v Hawthorn.
Yeah, he's a great player. He leads a Coleman medal, so here's the chance to actually take on potentially James Frawley, probably one of the best fullbacks all year, and just put his stamp on that medal.
He's kicked only one goal in the last two games against Hawthorn, Kennedy, so he's got a bit to do.
Yeah, he has got a bit to do, but West Coast are back in form. They'll be giving him much better supply than they have recently, and I think he can kick at least 4 or 5.
I like to make sure that Hawthorn at least play Frawley in the back line this time rather than start him up forward as they did last time they played West Coast over there. OK, turning now to the back half, Pete, and this weekend on Sunday at Etihad Stadium, Adam Cooney, the 2008 Brownlow medalist, plays his 250th and last game. He would be wearing the red and black of Essendon. It's been a pretty good career, hasn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. 2008 Brownlow medalist, and I heard someone say this week that was the best pre-season he ever had, Adam Cooney. He showed what he was capable of, and he was a pretty good performer in finals too when the Bulldogs were up and about and in preliminary finals. Unfortunately, that knee just made it really difficult for him to get back to his best, but he ploughed on and he's a worthy 250-game player.
What sort of player was he at his best?
Well, he was one of those explosive players out of the middle who we see him now, like Dangerfield, Chris Judd sort of pioneered it. They could get away from a stoppage or a clearance really quickly and give their forward line good service.
He's a really good player. It's been a fantastic career and a really good way to finish on Sunday. And let's hope a couple of Bulldog boys get around him to turn him off the ground after the game, because he's been a fantastic player for that footy club. Pete, thanks for coming in.
Always a pleasure. Love the record.
Good to have you here. And we'll talk to you next time. And let's have a look now at my tips for round 22. Picked 5 last week, total of 130. I think West Coast will get over Hawthorn in a really good game Friday night by about 8 points at Domain Stadium. I think the Sydney Swans will outlast North Melbourne in a very important game Saturday afternoon at Blundstone Arena. And I don't think this will be one of the best showdowns we've seen in recent times. I think Adelaide will beat Port Adelaide by about 3 goals. And now let's have a look at this week's nominees for the Woolworths Mark of the Year competition.
Got the turnover.
Jeremy Howe. This is a standard mark for Jeremy Howe, but that is one hell of a mark. Now, that is a Mark of the Year contender. Yet he did it with such ease that we just go, oh, well.
Let's see what he does do. Chris Scott. Ball goes to the other side. McCarthy. Oh, nice grab. Interesting player, McCarthy. Tackles hard, jumps high. The big jump by McCarthy. That was a lovely leap, lovely timing.
Spot on, Dermot. Controlling the ball a little bit better.
Oh!
Pedersen.
Hugely.
Yeah, the car's in his garage.
Good on you, Ken.
He had a bit of belief.
Massive grab it was from Cam Pedersen.
I'll be voting for the crafty cat, Lincoln McCarthy. You can have your say, of course, by visiting markoftheyear.afl.com.au. Now, we've asked you to design the cover for next week's record, the Round 23 edition. Here are some of the entries that have come in so far. There's still time. You've got till Friday, 5 p.m. So send a note to aflrecord@afl.com.au. That's it for this week's edition of On The Record. Here's our cover for this week, the national cover, all about free agency. The record costs $5. Look for the kids in the green caps and the green jackets. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.